UFC fighter accused of sending multiple spies into his opponent's camp 2 weeks before clash. UFC middleweight contender Chris "Action Man" Curtis is furious with his next opponent, Roman Kopylov, after the Russian allegedly sent multiple spies into his training camp. The pair of talented middleweights are set to face off at UFC Fight Night, Dern vs. Rebus 2, the first UFC event of 2025. Chris Curtis faces Roman Kopylov on the main card of UFC Fight Night, Dern vs. Rebus 2, with that first UFC card of the new year scheduled for Saturday, January 11, 2025. Just over 2 weeks out from their middleweight showdown, Curtis has now levied quite the accusation against Kopylov, with the "Action Man" taking to Instagram earlier this morning to allege that he's been spied on. Couple of weeks ago, 2 Russians show up looking to be part of the team, wrote Curtis on his social media page. Curtis trains at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. After 2 weeks they vanish as soon as Kopylov comes to turn and are now training together, explained the popular middleweight, adding that it was a "scumbag move" on the part of the 13-3 Russian. Whilst Curtis has not provided any evidence that Kopylov sent those 2 unnamed fighters into his training camp to get some inside knowledge, it certainly wouldn't be the first time that a story like this has generated headlines. Former UFC champion Jose Aldo once admitted to having spies in Frankie Edgar's camp before UFC 200, and more recently, Ian Machado Gary alleged the same thing before his fight with Michael "Venom" Page at UFC 303. Whilst Roman Kopylov has yet to respond to Curtis' allegation, UFC fans certainly wouldn't complain if 2025 kicked off with a "bad blood" matchup, with the pair set to face off in just 2 weeks' time. UFC Fight Night, Dern vs. Rebus 2 is a surprisingly decent card to welcome us into the new year, with a grand total of 14 fights currently scheduled for January 11, which takes place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas.